Good morning, everyone. This is the King of Uncool bringing you Fairy Tale Wiki Twitter Talk, Episode 9. Today we're here with Iman. He's a Fairy Tale fan. He's also a member of the Discord server that Spider-Man and various other users set up, and he offered to be a new guest to the episode, so we're going to welcome him over. Iman, how you doing today, man?
I'm good.
Awesome. So let's just get right into it. I don't want to dawdle too long. You're a Fairy Tale fan, right? So how did you first get into the series?
So basically, I was watching a website where like I was watching a website, a mainstream website, and I was watching One Piece, and I saw in one of the columns watch fairy tale, and it was new. It was only on like 70 episodes. First of all, I was not into it. I was like, only 70 episodes. I'm not gonna watch it. But after it got up to like a good 200, then I started watching it, and then I started watching it from episode one, and it was very good, and I binge watched it.
How long ago was this?
I really can't remember. I think what was this? 2018, I think. I'm not really sure.
But otherwise it was fairly recently. That was after the manga had already ended. So you saw that there was a pretty good number of episodes to go through and binge watch. So was that really what motivated you, that it was something you could kill time with?
First of all, I just really wanted to kill time because I just thought it was because I was really bored, and I wanted to watch it to kill time. But then I really got into it after the Urza arc, especially the one with Jalal. That arc is the one I really got into it, and then I just started watching it a lot.
What was it that specifically interested you in the series?
If I would probably say it was probably Natsu's attitude, and and Lucy, and it's just probably how normally in other animes, like other mainstreams, the anime only focuses on a small group, but in Fairy Tail focused on the whole guild as a whole. Like that basically interested me. Like it got me very interested.
So you mentioned that Natsu was one of the things that interested you in the series, that you like how it focuses on a whole lot of characters, which is actually something I hear quite a bit about. So who would you say your favorite character in the series is?
Is Lux's, because I loved it. And wait, am I allowed to say stuff that might spoil people?
Yeah, for the most part it's okay.
Okay, okay. So I loved it how Lux's was a villain, but he turned into a good character. So yeah, that was just so cool, and the way he came back from the arc where they were fighting the second master, Tenwa Island Mark. Yeah, the way he came back was just so cool, and I really loved it. So
Yeah, that's something I hear quite a bit. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, that arc is the one that made me just like Roxas as a whole, and the fact that he's so cool and calm about everything. Especially even in the final war, final season, he was so calm and relaxed.
Yeah, he definitely does carry that swagger of somebody who's just so strong he doesn't really need to worry, so he can kind of just approach everything in a very calm and casual way.
And even in the manga, I read the 100 Year Quest. Not fully up to date with it yet. I might have to do a little catch up with it. But even in the manga, he's still cool. And even though it's just a cool character as a whole. So that made me, like Luxus as a character.
So that's your favorite right there. Who would you say your least favorite characters in the series are?
I don't know, man. It will probably be great because the stuff he done in the anime and manga was just so dumb. Like the way, like I just first of all, the way the Julia was so open about it, and then the way he just like the episode where he rejected her when he gave her the golf scarf was the one that made me hate him. But then I understood why, because about the whole master dies thing and all of that. But still, Gray is just and he tried to kill himself twice, like for no reason.
Yes, the ice shell is a pretty common point of contention for a lot of people when it comes to Gray as a character, considering how many times he's used it, and it always seems like Mishima would just kind of revert to it if he doesn't really know where to take his character, because it's the only thing that Gray can ever seem to do that's dramatic, which most people have gotten very bored of at this point, wouldn't you say?
Yes, that's the main reason. And when the part where he wanted to fight Natsu because he couldn't keep a promise. I'm not gonna lie, that whole little few episodes were just so dumb.
Yeah, that whole filler arc, which is what it was generally not something people are a big fan of, and I can definitely see why it is boring and it, for the most part, does not make a whole lot of sense.
That is what you know. Just did not make me like Grey. I mean, like he. The only reason Grey I see Grey sometimes as funny is because of Juvia, and Juvia is one of my favorite characters as well because she's just so funny, makes the whole series funny. But then Grey, I just don't know about him, man.
Yeah, that's totally fair. But you mentioned the arc where Natsu has quote unquote forgotten something. So let's turn our attention to that for a bit. What's your favorite story arc in Fairy Tail?
Um, I would have to say um, Grand Magic Games because the Grand Magic Games were just so cool as a arc as a whole. The way they were fighting the Twin Dragon Slayers, Natsu he took them on by himself. That was that whole arc was just amazing. The way they were at the bottom, rise to the top. The quotes, the amount of quotes Natsu says, and what was it? Or something about and we start from the bottom but raise ourselves to the top or something. That was just so amazing. And the end battle was amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more popular arcs because of what you just mentioned, all the battles and the ways each of them went. So, on the opposite end, what was your least favorite arc in the series?
Mm, that's I have to say my least favorite arc would be the arc where Lucy were yeah, the arc about Lucy's keys and her old dad arc. Yeah, that was just so such a drag. The whole arc about how Lucy was, had father, and then I'm not gonna lie, the betrayal was actually was actually unexpected. I did not expect that at all. But yeah, that arc would probably be seen as my least favorite.
Yes, the famous Zentopia arc from the anime. That's totally understandable. Not many people like that arc either, and that's totally fair because most people do find it boring and they don't really like the villains of that arc, and I tend to agree for the most part. Although, there are some good points to that, as there are good points to most arcs. So let's talk about the points of Fairy Tail for a bit. What about Fairy Tail in particular do you like the most?
Wait, repeat that. What do I like the what?
What part of Fairy Tail do you like the most? Do you like the characters the most, the fights the most, or some other aspect?
Oh no 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 no! I just love the characters the most. The characters, the comedy, the whole comedy, and how funny it is. But then it gets serious. That's the main thing I love about Fairy Tail. The comedy
And what do you like least about it?
stuff like I don't know. I don't think there's anything I dislike about it except for how Yeah, I cannot think of anything I dislike about it currently because I just think it's a very good anime in general. But maybe the fact that people, I don't know. I really can't think of anything. If not except for that great filler arc, the other filler arcs was okay. It's just that I cannot think of anything. Maybe they could have added more Dragon Slayers. Maybe I don't know, man. I can't think of anything.
No, that's totally fair. So let's talk about something that we discussed briefly before we began this episode. You're a fan of isekai. So for those who don't know but are listening, isekai is basically a story about somebody traveling to an alternate world for one purpose or the other and what kind of adventures they encounter along the way. So first question there, what's something about isekai which you like?
I just love how they're overpowered at the beginning. Even though some isekai, the people are overpowered, but they learn how to use their magic or something like that. It's just so funny. I just love comedy basically. It's like I just love how most isekais they're basically full of comedy and it's just funny. That's the main reason. If you've seen the slime, the Tamagoya Kanye slime, that whole anime was just comedy. It was just so funny and it was an isekai. So that's the main reason I love isekais. Comedy. Just make me laugh.
What are some of your favorite shows in the genre?
I would say the Tamagoya Kanye slime. There was also Overlord, Konosuba, and there was the Isekai Cheat Magician, Wise Man's Grandchild. There's a lot. There's also Academic Records of a Bastard, and what was it called?
The Bastard Magical Instructor?
Yeah. That one.
Well, that's not really an isekai series per se, but I'm somewhat familiar with it.
Yeah, that's my fault. That's not my fault. It's not really an Isekai. Well, I just love it because of comedy.
That's fair. So is comedy the main thing that interests you aside from how the characters are overpowered in the beginning?
Yeah, that's basically the main thing that interests me, and the fact that we have to be honest here. It's like they have a harem. If we're being honest, That's the thing that interests me. It's just funny how he avoids all the girls from the harem. It's just that's kind of funny as well.
Yeah, the harem aspect is pretty common in those series. I totally get that. Although now that you've discussed Fairy Tail and Isekai, I'd like to ask you a bit of a tangent question. To a
Hmm.
certain extent, you could probably classify the Atlas arc of Fairy Tail as an isekai, not in the same way that Konosuba is, obviously, but
Hmm.
it is a travel to an alternate world type of story. So, in that regard, what do you think of that arc?
If I'm being honest here, that arc was actually very interesting. How I saw duplicates of everyone, especially the Nazi duplicate when I saw him as a crybaby. Did not expect that because he was acting all cool. That arc was very very interesting. I like that how they let Urza and Gray and they let other characters out because if it was just Natsu, Lucy, Wendy, Gojo, if it was just them and the cats, yeah, that or the Exceeds, that would have just been annoying because then they would have only focused on a little bit of characters. But I think that's when Gojo had his time to shine, and I like that because Gojo's a cool character as a rule.
Ah, yes, his independent actions, as well as in the case of the anime, meeting his counterpart, who happens to be an undercover reporter of sorts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And my favorite part of that whole thing is when Natsu ran out, he saw two Urzas fighting, and he came back super shocked. That's one of my favorite parts of that suit.
I do remember that part. That was rather amusing.
Yes, it was very amusing.
So, aside from that, what else do you find interesting? What are some of your other interests?
I mean, like, I'm not, and I really like, stuff that make me think. But in the total, I even watch anime that does not involve, any magic, like Classroom of the Elite and Assassination Classroom, stuff like that. That was kind of interesting. And of course, Akashic Records. That was kind of very interesting. So I find those interesting as well.
True, I am a fan of Assassination Classroom, so it's nice to meet a fellow fan of that series. Even though it's been over for a while, it's still definitely something that I think holds up, and I do recommend other people read or watch.
Yeah, I recommend people really watch that because it was kind of comedy classroom routine, stuff that some people may can relate to or something. So it was very very good, especially the ending. That was very sad.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to like in that show, so I always say, hey, go watch it. It's it's relatable, it's interesting, and it's it does get a little bit out there at times, but generally not too much. And even when it does, it's still pretty entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I believe it. That's true as well. But yeah, this
So anyway, thank you for taking the time to be here. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss? Perhaps a shout out you want to give to anybody?
now I'm good. I'm good.
No problem. Thank you again for taking the time out of your day to be here. I know this was a short one, but we both have our schedules. Let's just put it that way. So, anyways, guys, if you want to apply for the Fairytale Wiki Twitter Talk project, just fill out the application form and we'll get back to you. Thank you once again and have a great day.